Coming up next, will the election be a mess? Some voters are complaining about issues already.
Also, is this election more about branding than policies? We look at the explosion in candidate merchandise sales.
And a local museum undergoes major renovation to make it more modern. The Center County Report starts now. Good afternoon, I'm Addison Elbert. Thanks for joining us for the Center County Report.
And I'm Leanne Stapleton. Our top story, Election Day is just 2 weeks from today, and one of the presidential campaigns is making a stop in Center County this afternoon. Donald Trump Jr. will visit State College. Chanel Porter is live with the latest. Chanel?
I'm here in our township near the University Park. 3 hours, the president's son, Donald Trump Jr., will attend a campaign event at Bullington Trailways. He last visited our area in April 2019, hosting a guest lecture on Penn State's campus. The Trump team is making a series of last-minute campaign stops around the country to try to get out the Republican vote. Recent polls show President Trump in a competitive race here in Pennsylvania, but with Biden leading. One poll has Biden up by as little as 3 points, another as much as 6 or more points. By Thursday in their final debate. And Trump himself is scheduled to be back in Pennsylvania tonight. He'll attend a rally in Erie. Live in State College, I'm Chanel Porter. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Chanel. Yesterday marked the last day to register to vote in Pennsylvania, and the state has set a record. More than 9 million voters are now registered. That includes just over 4 million Democrats and 3.5 million Republicans, with the rest independents or other parties. As of Friday, more than 683,000 ballots have already been returned.
But some voters are worried about sending in their ballots by mail. There's been fear of slow mail delivery and other issues. Reporter Layla Mitchell talked with some voters who say they've run into trouble themselves. More than 9 million people are now registered to vote in Pennsylvania after yesterday's final deadline. But in a battleground state like this, some voters are anxious because they're already seeing problems. Have you been able to vote by mail?
No, I have not.
Klein Williams says he chose to vote by mail, but things hit a snag.
When I registered for my mail-in ballot with my family, they all received theirs a few weeks later, and mine did not come.
Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, many voters are hesitant to vote in person at the polls. And while mail-in voting is promoted as safe and secure, there are stories like what happened to Brianna Califano. She's registered in New York.
Received a letter in the mail that my ballot was received and that the signature didn't match the signature they had on file. And I hadn't sent in my ballot yet at that point.
In Brianna's case, the Board of Elections for her area had made a mistake.
They said that there was a printing error where they were sending out multiple ballots in the same name.
But some people are having trouble with their signature. If the signature on your ballot does not match the signature on your ID or registration form, your ballot will not be counted. And that issue has led to court fights in Pennsylvania, along with a requirement to reject ballots if they are not in a secrecy envelope. Similar issues are popping up in other states, including New York.
I had an issue with voting. My signature did not match the one that I gave on my driver's license.
It is not uncommon for mail-in ballots to be returned if there is a problem. That is, if the Board of Elections is able to contact you. State and local officials say they are doing all they can to keep the election safe and accurate. In State College, I'm Layla Mitchell for the Center County Report. In a key ruling on Pennsylvania's election, the U.S. Supreme Court will allow the state to count mailed-in ballots received up to 3 days after Election Day. The justices split 4-4 yesterday, so that upholds a state Supreme Court ruling on the issue.
The presidential candidates are scheduled to meet in the second and final debate on Thursday night. Both Donald Trump and Joe Biden are pushing to earn the last undecided votes. But how effective are debates in changing people's minds? Callaway Turner reports.
The first 2020 debate made headlines for its chaotic back and forth and nearly nonstop interruptions.
With None of to deserve 183,000.
President Trump opted out of the second town hall style event after the Commission on Presidential Debates announced it would be virtual. But how effective are presidential debates in earning undecided votes?
Historically, they have been a little bit effective.
John Gastiel studies political deliberation and group decision-making. The Penn State distinguished professor says typically there's about 2 to 5% of voters who are undecided, enough to sway an election. But this year, those numbers are down.
Partly because this election is an election about a singular human being. But I think you could have run through 10 or 12 Democratic candidates and you would get the same exact result.
More than 73 million viewers tuned into the first debate, down from 2016, according to Nielsen. But with more information widely available on social media, TV viewership doesn't matter as much as it used to.
You know, it was one time when if the debate was on TV, well, nothing else was.
In 2020, debates are more important for energizing each candidate's party.
Each campaign is going into a debate thinking, here's who I specifically need to speak to. Okay, I need to speak to women. I need to speak to bedrock conservatives. And they're thinking, who do I want to get a particular message out to?
But many people have already made up their minds. More than 20 million Americans have already voted at satellite elections offices like this one. In State College, I'm Callaway Turner for the Center County Report.
The final debate on Thursday will be moderated by NBC News anchor Kristen Welker. It will cover COVID-19, American families, race in America, climate change, national security, and leadership.
We have some breaking news right now. The new Center County COVID numbers are just in. There are 25 more cases than yesterday, bringing the total cases to date since March to 3,744. The number of deaths in the county remain at 15. Rapid 15-minute COVID tests are coming to our area. Center County is supposed to receive 250,000 test kits due to the higher number of positive cases here. Target areas include long-term care facilities, personal care homes, colleges, and health treatment centers. Penn State will be receiving a percentage of the kits, but it's not yet known exactly how many or when they'll arrive.
P3 Sports Arena and Christ Community Church in State College have announced they'll temporarily suspend sports tournaments at their facilities. This comes after officials handed out dozens of citations for an amateur wrestling tournament held last month that drew over 2,000 people. Officials say the event violated local COVID restrictions. The church says it'll take time to think about better ways to host events during the pandemic. In other news, despite a little rain yesterday and today, our area remains in a drought that's lasted 4 months, and that's affecting local farmers.
Everything needs rain. Everything needs rain to grow.
Central PA has seen very little rain in months. In fact, most of the area is in a moderate to severe drought, according to the latest U.S. Drought Monitor numbers.
From the time we planted our pumpkins in June until the second week in August, in this area here, we only had 0.7 of an inch of rain.
The county is asking people to cut back on their water use.
Normally, the corn behind me would be well over my head, but Center County is right now in the 6% of Pennsylvania that's experiencing a severe drought, and crops are being greatly impacted.
Center County is down more than 5 inches of rain from the average over the past 90 days, and that means many local farmers are struggling.
Corn, I lost 85% of my sweet corn crop. We were only able to harvest 15% of it.
Although this season has been tough, many farmers are making money in different ways, from pumpkin patches to selling ice cream or inviting vendors to their property.
It's a really, really tough year for farmers, but farmers will survive.
We'll continue updating the drought situation, and Nick will be here later with the 7-day forecast.
October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and on Penn State's campus, events have gone online because of COVID. The Gender Equity Center created its first ever virtual clothesline project. It's a way for people to express their support and stories about domestic violence through shirts. The shirts are color-coded to highlight forms of violence and the type of experience a victim may have had. The goal is raising awareness and keeping people safer. We're following a developing story today. Penn State football just got some very bad news about one of its star players. More on that in sports. Also coming up, changing times. Find out how the presidential race looks a lot different than in years past, thanks to merchandising and branding. More after the break.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Get caught buzz driving, and you could do some hard time.
Craig, knock it off.
Sorry, Mom. It could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. And that could set you back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
They said I have troll teeth.
That my voice sounded like a possessed baby doll.
That no one would ever love someone as stupid as me.
That I was fat, ugly.
Disgusting.
The effect of bullying is potent.
We will no longer be the silent majority. Now, when you see online bullying, there's something you can do about it.
We're going to take action with the I.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness, and so are you.
Presidential candidates have always been in the spotlight, talking policy and issues as they travel the country during election season. But this year, you can add branding and merchandise and personalities to the list. These days, it's not just about the vote, it's about the merch.
We're sort of divided onto teams. And so if you imagine people in their favorite sports team, they love wearing that kind of gear. And sure enough, I mean, I don't necessarily think that's a good thing, but here we are.
You can support your favorite candidate with everything from t-shirts, flags, and wine glasses to a dog collar or bandana for your pet.
There's not as much substance and a lot of speaking to a particular brand.
The Trump campaign told CBS News it's spent over $10.5 million on gear since 2017 and raised around $4 million in hat sales in just March and April of this year.
If there's a hunger and people are buying your merchandise, I think that's a really good sign.
Elizabeth Ritter of Boalsburg and senior legal counsel to President Obama says the candidates need to focus on what's important during this pandemic.
We have to think about that first. So should people have been, making MAGA hats? No, of course not.
The Obama campaign made this all possible, though, when in 2007 it was approved to sell merchandise for campaign profit.
If people can ethically and legally make money off of campaign artifacts and paraphernalia, why not?
No matter the political campaign, merchandise and branding has been able to do one thing.
Campaigns do run the risk of sacrificing policy and talking points that could be very useful in making sort of informed decisions for the heuristic of a well-branded candidate and campaign.
The campaigning ends 2 weeks from today. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. on Election Day.
Many businesses have closed their doors temporarily or permanently during the long pandemic, but one nonprofit in our area used the time to do something else with its facility. Grace Bradley reports.
The Boalsburg Heritage Museum on Main Street aims to bring the rich history of Boalsburg to the community, but like many other places, COVID has caused hard times.
According to a statistic done by NPR, a third of museums are shutting down for good due to COVID. But that's not happening to the Boalsburg Heritage Museum right here.
The museum curator, who was the executive director of the Ernest Hemingway Museum, decided to take this time to revamp the museum, to update it from its 1982 look to 2020.
I want this to be a viable, working, strong structure here, like my mother would have intended it.
They hope to spread energy out to the community.
This should not just be a repository for dusty artifacts. We also want to be outward focused and out into the community and be relevant to the community.
One way they did this was allowing a struggling yoga business to teach classes on their museum grounds. The museum says it's important to keep the Boalsburg history alive.
The story should not just begin, oh, the colonists got here and created Boalsburg. We're taking this tour back to the geology of this area, when this landscape was created, to the Native Americans that were here, and then looking forward. So there's a complete story.
The couple is grateful the museum is privately owned by a nonprofit organization and for their dedicated volunteers as they look forward.
In a very dark time, we have a very bright future here. And our future is not inward looking, it's outward looking to this community. And that's what we're using this time for.
In Boalsburg, I'm Grace Bradley for the Center County Report.
In the spirit of Halloween, the Boalsburg Heritage Museum is doing a decorating contest for the rest of October and hopes to do more events for the upcoming holiday season.
Wet start to the work week once again, but this rain is much needed, as Addison was showing in her package earlier. It's been very dry this fall, so any moisture is welcome. Looking at Beaver Stadium right now, we do see overcast conditions and temperatures are starting to get into the low 60s right now. We'll see those continue to increase as we head into this afternoon. We are tracking a cold front this afternoon that is lingering in parts of western Pennsylvania. It's going to be very slow moving and won't clear the state until tomorrow. So we do see that chance for some scattered showers here in central Pennsylvania. But look at the moisture gain all the way into parts of New England. They did see some drought relief last week with the moisture that they saw from previous systems. But here in central Pennsylvania, we've actually seen the drought continue to grow. Severe drought here in orange has now extended into parts of northern Pennsylvania. And hopefully we'll start to see that come down in the upcoming weeks, or at least stop spreading, because it's starting to become a real issue here in parts of Pennsylvania. Looking at temperatures right now, seeing a lot of the same parts of western Pennsylvania sitting cooler than the east, as that cold front has moved through some parts of the cities in the northwest near Erie and Bradford counties. But also now looking in the southwest, we are seeing temperatures sitting in the little bit warmer. Now looking at that cold front as we're tracking it, seeing those showers lingering in parts of the western portion of the Commonwealth. But as we start heading into parts of Wednesday, this is when the cold front will move through. Seeing those showers increasing as we head into Wednesday around dinner time. It could be an isolated shower here and there. Most would remain dry as that cold front passes through, clearing out into Wednesday evening. But as we are heading into Thursday, cloud cover will start to increase as we head into the afternoon of Thursday, seeing that cloud cover increasing. As we start heading into today, temperatures gain into the 60s with some scattered showers. As we head into the overnight, temperatures dropping into the low to mid 50s. As we start heading into tomorrow, temperatures getting into the 70s. And even looking at the 7-day, we're seeing plenty of 70-degree temperatures as we head into the end of the week. For Saturday, tracking our next weather maker with some rain in the forecast. Now I'm going to send it over to Matt with sports.
Thanks, Nick. Coming up in sports, Penn State football is back in action for the first time this season, but the Lions will be without one of their most important players. Also coming up, in high school sports, we have a winner in the Curtain Bowl. Highlights from a Friday night rivalry is next after the break.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How do you not love him?
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.
Matthew Knob with sports. We start with devastating news for Penn State football. Star running back Journey Brown may miss the entire season because of an undisclosed medical condition. 24/7 Sports reported the story last night. It's a huge loss as the team gets ready to return to the field Saturday against Indiana. The Nittany Lions begin their season ranked number 8 in the AP poll. The shortened schedule will have 8 games before a special Week 9 cross-divisional matchup. COVID protocols have impacted the ways the team can prepare, but Coach James Franklin says it's had some benefits.
You could make the argument it in some ways it's been better. We've had a lot of meeting time, and we've had a lot of individual, probably more so than we normally would have in a normal training camp.
Kickoff for Saturday's game is 3:30 at Indiana. You can listen to the game live on Penn State Com Radio. It's a high school football now in the intra-county rivalry between Bald Eagle and Bellefonte, known as the Curtain Bowl. We were at Bellefonte's Rogers Stadium for the matchup.
Strong defense was on full display Friday night in Bellefonte, and the Red Raiders and Eagles remained tied 0-0 until just over 2 minutes before halftime. Bellefonte opened the scoring with Dan Perisco nailing a 26-yard field goal. After a Bald Eagle 3-and-out, the Red Raiders offense got things going with a little razzle-dazzle. Quarterback Ethan Rossman connected with a wide-open Ryan Fitzgerald on the reverse flea flicker for a 46-yard touchdown. The ensuing extra point gave Bellefonte a 10-0 lead heading into the locker room. Near the end of the third quarter, Bellefonte extended its lead to 16-0 as quarterback Ethan Ross found Jalen Emmel in the end zone. The extra point was good. The Eagles were able to get on the board in the fourth quarter to make it 17-7. However, it was too little, too late. Bald Eagle head coach Jesse Nagel thought his team missed too many opportunities in the contest.
We lost the game. We not saying they played well, but we lost the game. We had how many wide open guys overthrown or underthrown. Unfortunately, we felt that they couldn't cover our guys, and we were right. We just didn't finish.
On the other side, Bellefonte head coach Shannon Manning was pleased with his team's effort in the victory.
I thought they wanted to win the football game. To be honest with you, I saw it in spots this year. That's the first time I saw what looked like Bellefonte football game where we played with intensity. We played hard.
Raiders have now won 2 Curtain Bowls in a row, and the trophy will stay in Bellefonte for another year. In other high school football scores, Central beat Penns Valley 42-13, and Tyrone beat Phillipsburg 35-27. State College played its rescheduled game at Carlisle last night. The Little Lions won 38-29. The game was postponed Friday because of a possible COVID-19 case, but the test came back negative. In NFL news, the Eagles and Steelers continue to trend in opposite directions after 6 weeks of play. The Steelers stayed unbeaten after beating the Browns 38-7 on Sunday. The defense remained strong, picking up 4 sacks and 2 interceptions, with 1 return for a touchdown by Minkah Fitzpatrick. James Conner rushed for 101 yards and a touchdown. Next week, it's a battle of unbeaten teams as Pittsburgh travels to Tennessee. And the Eagles dropped a close one to the Ravens 30-28. Carson Wentz threw for 2 touchdowns and Miles Sanders rushed for 118 yards. The defense could not stop Lamar Jackson, who had 186 passing yards, 108 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns. The loss drops the Eagles' record to 1-4-1. They host the Giants on Thursday. Penn State will host 7 NCAA championships between 2022 and 2026, 4 of which will take place in State College. The NCAA announced Penn State will host the 2026 women's ice hockey semifinals and finals at Pagula Ice Arena. The men's hockey team will host the 22, 23, and 25 regionals in Allentown. Rec Hall will host the men's gymnastics finals in 23 and the women's gymnastics regionals in 25. Also in 25, the men's and women's fencing finals will be held at the multi-sport facility. Back to high school sports. Penns Valley girls soccer is having a great season with an 11-3 record. After easing their way back into the season with only 2 practices a week due to COVID-19, 6 seniors had to take on new leadership roles and form team bonding activities. Those leaders include senior attacker Katie Martell with 15 goals, senior defender Leah Beeben, and senior goalie Kylie Allman. Coach Andrew Beverly, who's been with the seniors for the past 4 years, is proud of his team during an unusual season.
Preseason wasn't able to be what it normally is. Normally we have a longer time, we're able to get more practices in. So by the time we got towards our first game, we probably had about half the practices we would normally have at that point.
Penns Valley hopes to continue its winning ways. The next game is tomorrow at Clearfield. That's all for sports. Now back to you at the anchor desk.
Thanks, Matt. Coming up next, find out how a Pennsylvania man earned himself $25,000 just by carving pumpkins. We're back after the break.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
I rescued Toast from a shelter in 2011. I love Toast because she's a lazy diva. Toast does whatever she wants, obviously. She's sleeping right now. She's an epic snuggler. She's so comforting. She's so loving. Toast makes me laugh. When I walked into the shelter, I knew right then that she was special.
Okay, Simon, what do people wear?
Clothes.
That's right. So it's important to learn how to dress yourself. Here's how it's done. Shirt, underwear, pants, socks, shoes. Underwear, always first, name tag on the back. Then pants and shirt. Go ahead and put this on. Now with the shirt, you want to make sure the first button's right or you have to start all over again, okay? Socks left on left, right on right. Tying the shoes, we're going to take the laces, we're going to cross them over, we're going to turn around where the bunny goes down to the hole, pull it tight, and bunny ears. Got it?
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
A central Pennsylvania man has turned his love for pumpkin carving into a $25,000 prize in a national contest. Danny Kissel of Newville, near Harrisburg, competed on a show called Outrageous Pumpkins on the Food Network this fall. The show brought together 7 of the country's top pumpkin carvers to compete. Some of Kissel's pumpkin work is as big as 9 feet tall and 1,500 pounds. In the end, he took home the grand prize of $25,000.
That's a nice story. Good for him. That's all for today's newscast. You can find more of our stories on our website, centercountyreport.com. Our next newscast is on Friday, but you can follow us anytime for breaking news on Twitter. That's at Center County REP or on our Facebook page. We also have a Center County Report Instagram. Have a good day.